here. I'm in beautiful Sedona in Arizona in the United States, but today we're in studio. It's actually raining outside. Drew, my God, here we're here.
I know.
We're not on the Red Rocks, but they're all around us.
They're all around us everywhere.
Such a special place here.
It is. It's beautiful here.
It's your home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I moved here 20 years ago, and I've tried to leave twice, and I can't. I keep coming back.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm going wherever I move to. It feels like it's in black and white.
It's very colorful here.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, those red rocks and the blue sky and
the
those
green
green trees.
Yeah.
So special.
It is. It's gorgeous.
This is a great place to do your workshop. I know this week you were supposed to lead or to teach, I guess, the Beingness workshop, which is now postponed to March 2015, which is a brand new workshop. So a lot of us are really excited. I'm excited. I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get to do it this week, but it's going to be in March. But from my understanding, it's for the best.
I had to do this because of the dynamics. We were ready to present this as a complete thing today on this, I guess it was a couple days ago. And I couldn't do that because there was one last little piece that I didn't know. And I just got it. I got that information. I now have everything I need to know. And so I just needed time to integrate that into my body. So I figured it would be better just to wait a little bit longer and give it to them complete rather than...
No,
we're still missing this one last thing.
Yeah. First of all, how did you get your information? Is that during meditation?
It isn't really logical. I work on many levels, and I have teams from the Ascended Masters to different levels of people that are in other dimensions that give me whatever I need when I need it. And so
that's handy.
Yeah, it works really well. So I needed this last piece, and in fact, the entire world right now is trying to find that last piece, because it has to do with electricity, and there's a third form of electricity that they knew had to exist, and I finally found the person that not only knows it but can prove it, and now that I've studied what he's doing, I know how to apply that into my work too, and so I'm excited. I am excited.
Oh, we're going to go into details, but there's those three forms of electricity. One that we know that we use every day.
There's the one that's in the wall. We all know about it. And then there's another one, which are now called either field-aligned currents or Birkeland currents, which is connected to plasma fields also. And that one is what Tesla was starting to work on. And as you know, most people in the world have no idea what Tesla was trying to do, letting it run free in space and everything else.
We heard many things about Tesla.
Yeah, I know. He was onto something that now, long time in the future here, we're just beginning to understand what he was doing. But there's also a third form of electricity, and now so the world knows the first two, but they realize that there's a third form, and it has to be there, and they're all out there searching for it and looking for it. But I found the guy that did find it. He's been able to prove it solidly in science, and he's made a coil that goes into superconductivity. And he's been able to, in fact, that coil will outperform all the coils in the entire world, and even the very best coil in the world, by 60%. And it doesn't have to be at very, very low temperatures. It can be at room temperature, which is extraordinary, because for those out there that know what that means, that's one of the biggest scientific discoveries on Earth ever.
So how do you call that, and how is that related to us? Like what as human beings is important for us to know about this, and why you're teaching this right now?
I'm teaching it because my inner guidance has said you have to do this, so that's why I'm doing it.
You just have to.
I don't have a choice. But what I'm teaching is something that has been kept so secret on Earth for a very long time. I mean, the best I can tell from my own investigation of this is there's about 400 people that know how to do this on the world. Half of them are Tibetan Buddhists, and the other half are in Colombia and Kogi and the Arhuacos Mamos. Both of those people, their DNA came from the same place. They're the same people. And they know how to do this, but once someone knows how to do this, they've kept it out of human consciousness by those people being removed from the surface of the earth and put inside of caves inside the earth, and they never come out. And because if you saw one, you would know instantly that something was unusual.
Why? Because their feet won't touch the earth?
They float off the ground, and they glow in the dark. And this is a phenomena of electricity in the body that we are about to demonstrate and show how this works.
You think you can do it, we can do it?
I believe anybody can do this if they have the right understanding. And it does take, you have to have some pretty good knowledge about meditation. And so in order to do this new workshop, you have to know what we've taught in the Awakening the Illuminated Heart workshop.
Yeah.
And you don't really need to know the Flower of Life information, because that's given in a different way in the Awakening the Illuminated Heart. So anyone that knows that would not automatically know what we're teaching now, but without that knowledge, they can't do this.
And I just want to say this, but Awakening the Illuminated Heart is a beautiful workshop to do and a must do to learn how to be in the sacred space of the heart and the teeny space of the heart and the vibration. I really believe strongly that if all of us would create from that place, this planet would not be the same.
It changes everything. If we were all in that space, that little tiny space in the heart, there would be no problems on Earth.
Yeah.
We would all be
very different vibration.
We'd all be brothers and sisters and take care of each other and love each other.
So that's a must-do workshop anyway. And there is the learning the Merkaba, but here you're teaching it at a whole other level, right?
This is taking what was taught in the first two volumes of the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 1 and 2. This is taking this, what was taught then, to a much, much higher level that most of the world isn't even aware that it exists.
Not too complex?
Not once everything in sacred geometry, when you first see it, looks complex. But once your mind adjusts to it and knows what each thing is, it's easy. It isn't hard.
Is it the mind or the heart? Because we keep on switching. And what is your understanding? Let's start there with that basic, but is super
It's really
important.
both. But right now, everybody in the earth is living in their brain, not in their heart at all. Most people, I'm not everybody, I mean, some people are, but most people are only living in their head.
Yeah.
And that creates an ego.
Yeah.
And the ego thinks it's the greatest thing in the world and does everything that serves it, and not the whole or not anyone else. And maybe people they love and things like that. But
and it's polarized. I mean, that's
all
what I get to
polarized,
really see is once it's created from the brain, then you get the negative effect.
Exactly. The brain is in two halves, male and female.
Yeah.
And so it can't really create anything that's not polarized, because it's the instrument that's creating from is polarized.
Yeah.
The heart is not polarized, at least in one tiny. It's a huge toroidal field. So if this toroidal field is coming in, it meets, and like a magnetic field of the earth, you see the lines coming in and they go out at the bottom, they come around, they go in. Well, when these lines come in, they're polarized. But when they come, right when they touch in that little space, there's no polarity. And then they separate, and now there's polarity again. But if you exist in that spot, you are sitting in a non-polarized location in the universe. And all non-polarized places are interconnected together. So all of our hearts are actually connected together. But if we're not aware of it and we're living up here, then it doesn't do a lot of good that they're connected together, because there's no consciousness in it.
Yeah.
But now
that teeny space is related to this main topic node, because it feels like it's electric. There's sexual energy there. There's a deep attraction. Actually, how do we get there in the workshop? Is that we just follow that attraction? Huh?
In the Awakening the Illuminated Heart, we were connecting the heart to the brain, reconnecting it, rewiring it so that the ego wasn't there anymore. And while it's there, then you can do things that you normally can't do. You can bring these beams of light out. It creates a halo. You connect about 4 or 5 different glands: the thalamus gland, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and there's 2 others. And you link them all together in this line, and it opens up the third eye. And then you reconnect it to the heart. So the heart is actually looking out through the third eye rather than the brain. So it's not a psychic phenomena, it's a heart phenomenon. And
that's electric.
Yeah.
At which point does it create electricity, or is electricity already there? Or is how does this?
In my research right now, what it shows is that chi, or prana, or life force energy, and electricity are the same thing under different conditions.
Okay.
And so in our prana tube, what we're going to discover is that the chi is moving down and moving up and meets in wherever you want it, in this case in the heart chakra, and forms a ball of just pure chi in this place, and then it leaks out into this other sphere that's out here at your fingertips. We call it the Leonardo sphere because he was the first person to actually draw it on a piece of paper. But
and then that's where why this as the prana expands into the sphere, why does it create automatically this Merkaba?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But all it does is in the first one, the Flower of Life, we first did, you had to mechanically start the Merkaba. So you had to do different mudras.
Yeah.
And you had to do breathing in a certain way and a lot of things.
So that changed.
And that was out. And then you had to breathe it every day for 2 years or, or it would die.
Ugh.
It would die in 47 hours. And so you had to keep doing it.
Tough on us.
Yeah, I know. But we don't have to do that anymore because in the awakening illuminated heart, when you get into this place where your heart and your brain are connected together and they're breathing together and they're literally functioning together, then the brain, you just have to, in a certain state, you just have to begin to breathe with the intention of the Merkaba coming out. And the heart and the brain are already connected. The heart knows exactly what to do, and it just does it automatically. Exactly. You don't even have to know. It's like getting a car. You don't know anything about cars, and they just give you the key and say, "Here it is," and you just start it. But you don't know what's going under the hood or anything else.
Yeah.
This is, in this case, you don't actually need to know all the things you knew in the Flower of Life. It just happens, and so that comes out. It also comes out in a way that is very different, because the other one was synthetically created, and you have to wait till it grows to a certain level where it's strong enough to become natural. This one is natural from the moment that it pops out, and it's permanent from the moment it pops out. You don't have to do a thing. It's going to be there the rest of your life.
There's different kinds of Merkabas. There's a different kind that you're teaching then in this cosmic race workshop.
No, it's not. It's the same one that's being taught in the Flower of Life, except this one is achieved naturally. And but there are different kinds of Merkabas.
Okay.
The reality, the universe has found about 100,200 different kinds of Merkabas. Each one is like a lens that you look through to there's just one reality, who knows what it is, but when you look through that lens, you see something. What we see right now is a polarized world because we're looking through two eyes in the brain, and we think that's what's out there. But it isn't. That's only if you're looking through polarized eyes. If you look in other kinds of Merkabas, it can totally and utterly changes to something else.
Merkaba means vehicle?
Merkaba.
So we can travel with it?
Yes. Merkaba is a word. If it's Merkaba, that's Egyptian. And Mer means a counter-rotating field of light, and Ka means spirit, and Ba means body. And so it is a vehicle that allows the spirit and the body also to take this with you to move anywhere in the universe. And it's what everybody uses. There is no really other way. In fact, all your spaceships and everything else that are used are based on Merkaba science, all of them without exception, except for rocket ships.
Yeah.
But everybody that's actually moving around out there is moving around in one form or another of Merkaba.
We need to know all of that to tell us about the sphere, this other bigger sphere. So there's the Leonardo sphere, and then there's this other much bigger one.
Well, for you that have read the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, if you go to Volume 2 and go to pages 361 through 365, in that place right in there, you'll see what I introduced, a larger aspect of the Merkaba. And there you'll see that what we call the Leonardo sphere is actually called the Alpha sphere.
Okay.
And out from there, approximately 30 feet up, 55 to 65 feet, it depends on your height, that sphere is called the Omega sphere. And it is linked to something that it is the way that we move, not just from one point A to point B, but how we move in size.
Yeah.
And size is more important than space and time. It's way more important. And so you can move down into spaces smaller than neutrinos, and you would still be you in your body, or you can go up into spaces that are so big that we can't even see things that big, and yet your body will be appropriate for those spaces. And life has been doing this forever. It isn't anything new. We just forgot, that's all.
Yes. So how is that related to this new workshop and to the cosmic rays? How can we reconnect with all being, and how can we be one again?
Okay.
True.
Okay. I got to figure out how to tell you this. Okay.
Yes.
So we stopped the first workshop, the Flower of Life. We stopped it a long time ago because the Ascended Masters who initiated that realized that it wasn't the way that it is normally taught everywhere. We had to make an adjustment, because when they first started doing this in 1980, it was 4 women that the Ascended Masters were teaching, or having them teach around the world. They were in 4 different locations, and they started teaching the work of the Flower of Life in the way that it was done normally, which is the heart can connect to the brain, and the heart can also connect to the uterus and the genitals in another kind of way. And so usually they start with the heart connected to sexual energy, or tantra, and that's what they tried to do with those first 4 women. But when they actually started teaching, the only people that were interested in that workshop were females. The ratio was 100 to 1. So there was 100 females in a room and 1 male sitting there chewing his fingernails and because they just didn't care. Males don't care about the, all the subtle energies and the feelings.
Times have changed.
Yeah, it definitely has.
I see a lot of men of the heart.
Absolutely, that's changed. But back in 1980, there weren't very many of those guys around.
Yeah.
And so
you had all the women for you, lucky you.
No, that didn't happen that way. What happened was after 4 years, the Ascended Masters saw that it was only females and no males. That won't work. They have to get both sides. They have to have both people come in.
Yeah.
So they had me reverse this in a way that it has been done before, but it's very rare. So they had me start with the Merkaba, which is usually, in the old way, that was the last thing they would talk about. Instead, now it's the first thing we were talking about. So we started talking about sacred geometry and the Merkaba. And the reason we did that was to attract the males, because the Merkaba is geometry and mathematics, and it's logical, and it makes sense. And so the guys would come, and they did. Instantaneously, it went from a ratio of 60-40, 60% females,
Interesting.
60%, 40% males.
Did it have any counter effects?
It did, and I was really nervous about teaching this, because if you do it in that way without going through the heart, then the ego is intact. And so if the ego is intact, if you look back at my actions in the 80s and 90s and everything, I was really worried, because if somebody, if the ego takes over, which it can, and says, wow, this is a very powerful thing, maybe I can use this to control people or make money or whatever, that was not the intention. But we had a lot of casualties on that level, and it was really a lot. I don't know what that number is, but it was a lot of people.
How did you deal with that, and how is it different now?
Oh, it was really hard for a long time, because I knew this was happening and I didn't know what to do, really, and they didn't know what to do, except they knew that if they didn't do it, and they did the first one, we wouldn't make it. So they had to try this. When it got to, there were a lot of rough years there. People were just taking the Merkaba and changing the ratios and changing the speed ratios, which you cannot do. It took billions of years to be able to figure these things out, and you can't change even one tiny thing in them. But people were doing this all over the world, and that's where the biggest casualties took place, were creating Merkabas that do not relate to reality. And it's very dangerous. The universe itself, there were many, many thousands of planets, really, that were completely destroyed in the beginning, because they picked a Merkaba that they thought would work, but they didn't find out the long-term effects of it until maybe 1,000 years later, and they all died. And so from that, the universe has learned a lot. And now we know there's over 500,000 Merkabas that you cannot use. And most of the universe knows exactly which ones they are. And you can't use them because they all have problems and they won't work. And there's about 100,000, 200 that you can use.
Have you ever been scared to attract in your workshop some people that will use it in the wrong way? And how did you deal with that? Because I'm sure that has happened.
Oh, it has happened. Yeah, there was a guy from Australia who took one of the things we did, which wasn't even made for people, it was for planets. We were using it to start the Merkaba of the planet, because the Merkaba of the planet died about 500 years ago. This was in the Mayan calendar exactly when it happened. And so we did that, but one of the people, it was 9 workshops long, but one of the people that came there took that information and started to teach people how to do this. And these are Merkaba fields that are as big as the solar system. They're not made for people, they're made for much bigger things. And he had, just within the first 4 or 5 years, he had over 200 people that were put in insane asylums in Australia permanently. They could not go because he was doing things that you should never do. And so that's another whole thing.
Yeah, but it's important to mention, you know, I mean, this is larger than this conversation, but how to choose how to choose the teacher and the type of teachings that you want to do and apply every day in your own life. You know, this has an impact not just on us, but on the world and the universe ultimately.
I know it is.
And there's not just you teaching some things. This is one aspect. But what would you say in general the guidelines are?
Well, it takes incredible discernment because some of these people come off as they really know what they're talking about.
Yes.
And so I understand why it happened and everything, but that's over with now pretty much. It is dropped down to almost zero at this point. And we then shifted from there to that thing that was going on in about in 2010, I think it was, maybe a year earlier, approximately 2010, the Cinder Masters came in and said, okay, the effects of this, the positive effects of this have changed the whole human race. And the men are different now. They understand subtle energies are more important and they can do it without having to feel that they're losing their masculinity or something else like this. And so, and that's when they said, okay, now we want you to teach it in the original way.
Yeah.
And so we didn't begin with sexual energy. That was a long discussion of all of that. But we began with the heart and taught people how to get into that space in their heart and live in there and breathe from there and function from there, and then how to activate the Merkaba through their brain, connect the brain, and then how to go into creation and a lot of things that they need to know in order to go into higher consciousness. Now that's complete. And just to give you a little bit more,
yeah, especially the switch too, because we didn't speak of that switch, you know, from where I was at and how it was taught in a very masculine way to now a more feminine, because you were going to call it beingness. So I guess there's a lot of organic parts to it now.
There are, well, that's
it's
kind
still
of
very technical.
That's kind of hard to talk about because after they came back and said, well, let me explain one more thing.
Yeah.
On the last one, the ATIH, we got to a place where it was complete. And it was so complete that even the last step of exactly how, when you say it's time for you to go to the next level of consciousness, precisely what you do, exactly what you do. And that was published on the School of Remembering's website. And so once you have been through that, you can have access to that. It's the only way you can get there. And so that is complete. That is what over 5,000 of the 8,000 ascended masters, that is the method that they used to get into immortality. And so we're giving you a very true and tried method of how to get in, and we know it works.
Okay.
And so that's, for the people that have gone to that level, they don't really need anything else. They know what to do. But life is not that simple. It isn't about one is better than the other, like ascension's better than resurrection or dying, etc. That's not what it's about. Life is about trying all possibilities and understanding everything from all levels.
And seeing what works for ourselves too, checking in inside, what resonates.
Yes,
no?
Of course.
Because ultimately that's...
Some people don't need to do a single thing and change their life at all. They'll be fine, just going through the normal death process, and everything will be fine. It isn't about those kinds. It's not about one better than the other, or safer, or anything else like that.
It's not that paradigm.
And so once I was done with this, which was just recently, it was really in 2013.
Yeah.
The angels came back in and said, "Well, you're here, and the information is here," which I didn't really know what they were talking about at that time. And they said, "So we want you to create another pathway, another work." And I said, "Okay," but I didn't understand where they were going with this, so I started going in a direction that I thought that's what they meant. And very quickly, I knew that wasn't it, and we had to start changing it.
Yeah.
And
I can't say that one.
Yeah, me neither. So we just changed it and to what is now appearing to be, and it's clear what this is now. And in the past, I've had very good scientific documentation on a lot of levels. Like the Russians have proved the existence of the Merkaba, etc., on their computers and around human fields. And I have a very strong scientific documentation as well as a spiritual documentation. But this time, almost every single thing I say has been documented by science. A new science that nobody knows about.
How do you name it?
Well, it isn't got a name yet.
It's not quantum.
The close, no, it's every single theory that has ever come out from relativity, special relativity, and quantum physics, and on, string theory, superstring theory, all these things, they all have problems. Not one of them doesn't have serious problems, especially around gravity. They can't. It isn't something that explains everything. It explains a little bit. You know, it was enough to get the atomic bomb out of that other one, but there are so many anomalies, so many problems that to any true scientist that really knows what's out there, they know that the direction they're heading in is not correct. They have to keep going because they have no choice. But at some point, they're going to hit a brick wall and smash, and they're doing that right now. The old science is about to be dissolved, and a whole new one is about to come in. And there's a group called the Electric Universe, which is about 40 scientists or so, that can explain absolutely everything in the universe through just normal electricity that you have in your wall socket, without anything else.
Electrical science.
Yeah, it's an electrical science. And now you can look into the heavens and all the things that are going on out there, you realize it's nothing but electricity, is all it is. And there is a relationship.
Sexual energies.
That's electricity also. And so is Kundalini. And so things that we thought were not, more mysterious are not. But what's in the wall is what came out of the original states when we started explaining electricity to ourselves. We put it through a wire so that we could test it and control it, and we could see the magnetic fields that are formed, and we created a mathematical formula to explain this. It's very precise. But there was Tesla, and Tesla was that odd card that was out there doing something totally different, what nobody really knew what he was doing. And even people today, people that think they really know a lot, they may be surprised that Tesla was just beginning also. He was just beginning to understand and just started to open the door. And there's much, much more to it. So now they've discovered a second form of electricity, which is called Birkeland currents. It was first discovered in modern times in 1969, and it was called field-aligned currents. And then they realized that was really from a man named Birkeland, I think it was in 2008, who discovered what are called field-aligned currents, only they now call them Birkeland currents. And Birkeland currents are something that destroys everything we know about physics. For one thing, we think that the speed limit of the universe is the speed of light. Almost everybody out there, you probably think speed of light is the fastest thing in the universe, 186,200 miles a second. But the thing is, relative to the universe, that is slower than a snail. Because if you're going to use electricity to communicate on, if it goes through a wire, there's a time lag when it gets from one place to another. But in Birkeland currents, they can move from here to the other side of the universe in 0 time. Not even instantaneously, not even nanoseconds, but in 0 time. And space means nothing. Space and time, neither one are part of the equation.
Only size.
Size does matter, but not in the way that we would think.
Yeah. Let's not go there. Oh
No,
my
we
God, my
won't go
mind
there.
just switched.
No, not right now. So now they found this second one, and all the physicists now realize that if the theory of the universe is really electrical in nature, there has to be this third form of electricity. Otherwise, and so all these guys, I know who they are, and they're all trying to figure it out. And again, my information comes in different ways. I just said, how do I get it? And I found the person exactly who had not only figured this out, but was able to prove it solidly in science. And he's become world famous because of this. But they don't know how that applies into what they're doing.
But I'm a very practical woman. I'm French, and we were raised in the rational, way. But not like a lot of us around the world. And I just want to make sure I get what is the impact for us on a day-to-day in our practical, very earthy life. My God.
You see, most people wouldn't know what these scientists are, how it would apply to a person.
Yeah.
But since I've studied Merkaba science, and these physicists and mathematicians don't know Merkaba science. One of them did. I sat, and it was amazing talking to him. Mm-hmm. But they don't know about that, and so they have to use scientific method to arrive at things. So they don't know, how does this do this, and why is this doing this? It takes them a long time to figure these things out. But I have the overview of the Merkaba, and everything in the universe is Merkaba science. There is no exception. And so I know about the alpha sphere and the omega sphere and how energy flows between these things. And they're showing me how in the heavens you see these flows of energy moving across the sky for billions and billions of miles, and which is like Tesla in his lab, where they're moving across his lab, only now we're talking about huge flows. They never knew that was electrical in nature. They were trying to figure it out. Now they know it's electricity that is actually moving. And so the electricity moves in a certain way, and then it gets superheated and it forms the plasma fields that are the beautiful colors that you see out in there.
North Pole?
Well,
also?
It is. If you take the sun and the earth, this is where they first discovered it. And I'm going to step forward a little bit after they first discovered it. In the 90s, the sun would have a CME, a coronal mass ejection. A huge hole would form and mass would be thrown out. This is a sexual relationship between the sun and the earth, literally. And that flow of sexual energy, or what's called Birkeland currents, would flow to the earth. Only that's not exactly how it works, and I'll have to explain that in a moment, because it doesn't actually move in the way we think. It is everywhere at once. And so, but it would move to the earth. Now, at that time in the 90s, they were going speed of light, fastest thing in the universe, and it takes 8 minutes and 19 seconds for that energy to get from the sun to the planet. But there were scientists, lots of them, that were discovering that when the CME went off, instantaneously, no time lag, they would have microscopic animals that would respond to this. They would start going crazy and everything else like that. Even though they couldn't figure out what the energy was that was going on, they could see that there was a direct response, and they could see it over and over and over. Every time a CME, bam, they would do this. Now they know that what happens is a Birkeland current comes out, follows the gravitational lines, and goes to the earth, and it happens in 0 time, instantaneously. It's here instantly. And that is sexual energy from the sun to the earth. The earth, as a female, responds to that. And there is a huge and massive flow of energy through the axis of the earth that comes up that passes through water, which is a key to all this science, which is the oceans that are above it, which superheats the electricity and forms these plasma fields. And so you see a big circle around the North Pole, maybe off to the side or so, and it will be, that's plasma, where the electricity superheats brings in the ions, the matter, and forms the plasma fields of these colors, that these beautiful colors. So the aurora borealis is actually the aftermath of a sexual union between the sun and the earth.
And we're at the center of all that?
We are identical.
Identical.
We are absolutely identical.
Awesome.
The fields that are around the sun and around the earth and what are within it are exactly the same around us. And we can do the same thing that they do. We can do it as an individual. We can do it as two people. We can even do it as three.
Drew, what are you suggesting again?
Oh. But the three is male,
Who's the
female.
third, then?
It's neutral being. It's a child. And so this is how we in the beginning, if you guys have read my books about where I and Taye were the first ones to make, they were the first ones to become immortal. And they did it by having a baby. And so by having the baby, that's the neutral cham, then the Birkeland currents tightly spiral around this.
Really tight.
As tight as they can. It's as tight, if you took two wires, it's as tight as two wires could possibly get around each other and still be separate. And that's what it is. It's everything that's going on in the heavens, if you understand that, and you understand the inner dynamics of the Merkaba science, you can apply that to yourself. And so we can stream electricity out through our body, out in this way, and in such a way that it would go up 30 feet up to what's called the omega sphere, which is a huge sphere around us. And from there, and underneath there also is, and which I've said in the books, is there's an Icasa dodecaedron relationship, which is the same thing as the unity grid that's around the planet. That's the outermost shell, and it's connected to there. Well, the shell that happens to be directly connected, directly above us and right below us, is the icosahedron, which is water. And so we connect to the water shell, and one of the pentagons is facing one way, and the other one is 180 degrees around facing the other way below us. And so as our electricity does a Birkeland current going out and goes through that water, it superheats, and potentially there's no reason why we can't make Birkeland currents also, and plasma fields.
I want to go back to a conversation we had in 2011, and I'm sure a lot of people watching out there are also intrigued about that. What is, if this planet would go all of a sudden dark, all of a sudden, and it would be nothing, and this is chaotic, basically, is this technology, these techniques handy, and is that, by the way, going to happen? Because you predicted a lot of things.